After more than 8 years and 120 episodes, it's the end of the line for Rick Grimes. But does the show send him off in a manner appropriate for the quality of his character? Boom goes the dynamite as we say goodbye to Rick and hello to a new group of characters. It's The Walking Dead, Season 9, Episode 5. What comes after? Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Walking Dead. So yes, there are spoilers galore coming up. Alright, so it's all been building up to this. We knew it was coming. How they were going to pull it off, that was really the question. And of course the concern is, are they going to do something great? Are they going to do something impactful? Are they going to do something worthy of all of this time and effort that Andrew Lincoln has put into the show? Or is it going to end up being some cheesy ass reason of why he may have wanted to leave the show in the first place? Thankfully, it was so much more the former. Really an appropriate send-off. A lot of great moments, a lot of great return of characters, and, like I said, some surprising scenes that really brought out some death and left the door open for possible return. So, let's kick things off with Rick's reawakening. A lot of flashbacks in this episode. It was kind of interesting because first off, we have Rick kind of flashing back to himself. And I always love when they do these kind of time shifts because we've been watching the show for so long, we know how everything looked. And man, if that wasn't young Andrew Lincoln from 2010 when the show started, laying in that hospital bed, staring back up at old Rick. Really did a fantastic job of makeup, computer imagery, shaving the beard. I'm assuming he dyed did those shots at the very end, shot everything else, and then shaved everything off. So yeah, it was kind of a very cool way to sort of open things up, really showing the quality that we were having in this episode. And that's, of course, a continuing theme sort of begins here as well with the whole wake up. Each of these kind of flashbacks, each of these moments are kind of as he starts to pass out. And with each one, with each memory, with each flashback, with each connection to previous character, there is the continual idea to get up and get moving, which is wholly appropriate considering the size of the walker herd behind him. Talk about pulling out all of the stops. How many extras did they get for this show? Because that was a massive, massive herd. And we got enough close-ups, we got enough characters throughout the episode where really they went all out, as they appropriately should. We definitely got the scale, the immensity of this herd, of this group that was coming by. There was just so many great shots of right behind Rick and this spreading out of this massive herd. I mean, I'm sure some were CG and some were stuff, but really that was a lot of makeup effects. I mean, I'm sure makeup started the day before they started shooting. They just worked all through the night before they got to any of those shots. But pushing him along is, of course, a return of a lot of classic characters that we have said goodbye to. John Bernthal is Shane in a wonderful sequence. Scott Wilson is Herschel. Oh, really, the last thing that he shot, and I do understand that he got to see his scene before he passed away. So that was really kind of a heartbreaking bit in a sad and wonderful way, because we got to kind of say goodbye to Herschel really in a moment while he was saying goodbye to Rick. It was kind of a beautiful moment there. And then, of course, Sonequa Martin Green is Sasha coming back up. Really a wonderful trio of characters. Again, and each of with kind of relaying an important image. Shane, I gotta say, I love that scene. I love Shane popping up. I love the acknowledgement of Judith as his kid. So how's my little girl doing? Well, thankfully doesn't have your nose. I mean, really, it was nice. It was really kind of, it was great. We're seeing these two kind of brothers, friends, as they were in the beginning before it all sort of fell apart there in season 2. But Shane also really hits an important role, one that has kind of reflected throughout the following seasons, is while Rick kind of fought Shane insisting that Rick's weakness is he wasn't willing to do what needed to be done. Make those hard calls. And then, of course, that ends up completing their kind of head-to-head there and Shane's eventual death. The irony of that being is that Shane was right. Rick did need to become that person. In fact, did become that person. And in some ways, thanks to Shane. I want to take all the credit for you being an asshole. I'm sure some people contributed to that, but I want to take the credit. He was right. It was sort of a great moment to reconnect with that and see how much of an influence Shane had on Rick, and in a way, how much that he was right. And he, again, begins this push to keep going. You've got to dig in deep. You've got to grab that anger because you have to wake up. And how each of these flashbacks get that to motivate him to keep going. And the best transition scene right there with Shane, too, is he's like, get up! And it immediately shots to the walker lunging in at Rick. I thought was sort of a beautiful, beautiful little transition there. Then we get Herschel. Again, also very sweet, very nice, great, beautiful sunset. And here we're seeing Rick starting to go. Now he's looking for his family. Maybe I could stay. I mean, Lori and Carl, the people that he has lost. You could see where in that losing consciousness, blood loss, reflecting back, mind wandering, he wants to reconnect with the people that he has lost. And Herschel kind of coming back at him while Rick is apologizing. Herschel is like, no, you have done the right things. You've made them strong. These things have made Maggie strong, and my grandson is going to make her stronger. The positive contributions that Rick has made to keep him going, to keep pushing, to not turn away. It was, again, another wonderful moment. You've got to be tough. You've got to be hard. You've got to grab the anger. That's what Shane was pushing. Herschel is, you make other people strong. You've got to be there, you've got to motivate, you've got to do all this. This is why I have to wake up and keep going. And Sasha, kind of in a way, pulling all of those elements together. Wonderful, again, great shot of back to the beginning where we saw the old hospital, don't open, dead inside. And here the little shift and change, don't open, dead outside. And then, oh God, that just, again, massive amount of bodies. And we see some old friends and even see new. I mean, we didn't see Daryl's face, but it looked like one of him in his vest, but his head turned away. I thought as they pulled away, we saw Carol there. Definitely seemed that we saw Beth and a lot of the other people that we knew. So those that they have lost, maybe his fear of loss, and Sasha's reminder of these people that lost, they have pushed us, they have given us strength to continue going, just as we give others strength, the ones coming behind us, to keep going. That this is why we have to continue. It's that strength, it's that perseverance. So each of these characters, I mean, and again, it was great to have the flashback, it was great to have the return for some of these really powerful quintessential characters from the show. Be able to pass along these important messages of why Rick's got to keep going, that it's not about giving up, it's not about giving in, that it's about saving the people that we love, giving them a world to continue on with, and this is why he has to strive and push continually until the job is done. Now, of course, it wasn't just Rick going on with this episode. Mostly was, but we did have a little other follow-ups of stories and really some great moments. And I'm talking about Maggie coming up to take care of Negan. That encounter with Michonne, that discussion with Michonne about continuing on and making mistakes and regrets and that whole discussion I thought was brilliantly done. How Maggie is talking about she's given it 18 months, she's given it a year and a half, she has to end this, she has to change it, she can't keep going on. Michonne's appropriate response is, this isn't going to end something, this is going to start something else. Fearing, of course, that this is going to push the remaining saviors, sanctuary, for revenge. There's always that, we already have that encounter that they don't know about going on back at the camp of revenge and what that cascade is going to turn into, which is exactly what Michonne is concerned about. Maggie having revenge is going to inspire others for revenge, and that's going to be this never-ending process. By saving Negan, this is a way to try and stop this. By showing mercy, we can show that there is another way. And then Maggie turning that around with, fine, give me another idea. How else can I do this? Because I've tried everything else. It wasn't just anger going on here. There really was a desperation on Maggie's end. In fact, a willingness to search for other answers, but you could see that she had nothing else to pursue. And Michonne had nothing else to say to try and satiate that. So it was an incredibly powerful little discussion right there. And then Michonne gives her the keys and steps aside. That shocked the hell out of me. That was not what I was expecting this to go. Maybe a fight, maybe it was something else, but Michonne to willingness to be like, okay, well, you accept what's going to come from this, that you're going to have to live with this afterwards. And then willing to step aside to let Maggie go in that direction really was shocking. And then the encounter with Negan. Astounding. Blew me away. It is our Scene of the Week! Part 1. Yeah, it's my show. I can have as many scenes of the week as I want. We have 2 this week, of course, this being one of them. Because it starts so beautifully in one direction and turns around so much at the end. How Negan is just taunting Maggie at the beginning. No remorse at all. Just, bashing Glenn's head and making his eye pop out and then stabbing it, then beating him down right in front. And I enjoyed it. I used to say that I didn't like killing, but really pushing all of the buttons that he needed to. And then Maggie, ready. I was concerned. Is she going to bring him out? Did she bring the crowbar to break him out and then was going to drag him out and shoot him in front? No, it's going to beat him to death inside the jail cell with the crowbar. Kind of an appropriate image there for Lucille. What Negan did with everyone else is now Maggie's going to do with the crowbar to him. But how that it does that powerful turn. We find out that's just see how broken Negan is. He is egging her on because he wants her to kill him. Because he is completely broken. And he just wants to be reunited with his dead wife. And then when you finally pull, and again, the whole season we've seen him just in shadows. We've never gotten a good shot. And she yanks him into the light. And we just see this old, decrepit, broken individual who is just begging to die, that he can't keep going. He's tried to do it himself. He's tried to kill himself. He's on bashing his own head against the wall last week, but he can't do it. He can't end it himself. He needs her. That's why he is talking all that crap to her and pushing all of her buttons to get her to kill him, the one thing that he wants. And she can't do it in the end. Can't give him what he wants. But also, she came to kill Negan, and this is no longer Negan. This is a broken shadow of what that man was. And the worst thing that she could do to him isn't to kill him, but to make him continue to live. Kind of the idea that Rick had behind it is about that long-term punishment. It's not about that quick end. The quick end is a gift. that long punishment, that's where it all comes down to. That's where the real pain is. So just, oh man, Lauren Cohan and Jeffrey Dean Morgan owned that scene. So powerful, such a great turnaround, was just magnificently done. And Rick's end, that whole ending sequence, beautifully done. Waking up in the camp after another of his little bracket. I think that was Sasha's flashback scene, coming up to the camp. And I was wondering where he was going this whole time. Why doesn't he just run off to the camp? Well, I guess that's where he was sort of heading, to the bridge, to the camp, and just finds bodies. Empty, and bodies and dead people. Still hoping to hear a little bit more about what went down with that battle, but it certainly ends up being that a lot of the Saviors didn't do too well and cleared out the camp. So and it's kind of again, an intense moment, waking up, not only seeing the camp with all the dead people in there, but no one else around. The devastation, and with Rick in the midst of his fevered dreams and hallucinations and everything, really just at that complete loss. Where he has to decide, his only choice here really is to lead them across the bridge. Eugene said the bridge is going to hold with all these people. We see all the rushing waters. We see all of that powerful river coming by, that this was going to be the end. And we even get one last little flashback, that moment where he collapses on the bridge and looks up, and it's everybody running across the bridge, taking out the walkers, and yeah! Inspiring. I had a feeling it wasn't really that real. But we do get that last little message from Michonne, which I think is important and plays forward. That, again, it's about family. You're fighting for your family to preserve all of this. We are here for you. You have found us. And her last line, becoming super appropriate, we don't die. And I think that's really important, especially considering how things end. That's always one thing that we expected. Rick Grimes doesn't die. He is the main character of The Walking Dead. So seeing him go does not really seem appropriate for the show. And yet, and I'm getting teared up even just thinking about it, what is our Scene of the Week? Part 2. Is, of course, that final bridge moment where he leads the walkers to the other side. The irony is all the work that they've done is actually held up pretty well. The bridge isn't breaking. It isn't going. It looks like they're just going to overcome him. And then that walker just goes down, boom, to the head with the arrow. Boom, another, when we look over, we see Daryl on the other side. Then we see everybody else running up and seeing. It's like that reunited moment. They're separated by the bridge. They're separated by the walkers. They can't get together, and yet there is still a reunion, a way of saying goodbye, a last further impetus to do what needs to be done in order to save his family, who was right there, out of reach, but not out of sight, not out of mind. I mean, the imagery-wise was beautifully done. Kind of interesting that they couldn't get, tempt the walkers over there with the gunshots and everything else. They were all dedicated, and again, massive amounts of walkers. But the box of dynamite gets knocked over, and there is only one answer for Rick. That final shot, I found them. Found my family, the reason why I'm doing this, that motivates everything. I mean, in a perfect way for a hero like Rick Grimes here to go out. Boom goes the dynamite indeed. Great blasting of him away. It was a nice little couple, just like millisecond, half second of a shot there. Bridge goes up, fiery walkers all falling into the lake, or into the river there. It was just, again, beautifully appropriate, a wonderful sacrifice move in front of everyone, that they see what happens. Emotional, yes. Breaking down for sure. But just a powerful and, again, appropriate way for Rick to go. There was everything we would have wanted to see in a final shot with Rick right there, and they gave it to us perfectly. God, even Daryl just constantly running out of bolts with this crossbow, just giving Rick as much time as he could. Oh man, it was just beautiful. It's beautiful. But not really the end of Rick. Judith manages to find him an appropriate deal for her, since she has been promising an A to our mystery people in the helicopter. And I guess she ends up getting a B, a wounded B. Still don't know what the difference between the A and B is. It alpha? Is it beta? Is it strong? Is it not? Said it's a B, but he's strong. Is it in perfect health or not in perfect health? I don't know what those terms mean. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that Rick isn't dead. Got blown into the stream, washed to the side, and Jadis pulled him up, made the note to save him. Why? He saved me, I want to save her. In fact, it was a way for Jadis to go really in a positive way, I think. Because, you know, iffy character last season, going in with this season seemed good, and that whole scene with Gabriel seemed selfish, what was going on, but really kind of explaining, I mean, that's how she sold it to the radio, is this is a man that helped me. We've got to help him. He is strong. He can go on. Yeah, maybe it's being used as a tool, but really, especially that last scene was they're flying in the helicopter saying, you're going to be okay, everything's going to be fine, was encouraging. One, I think it's a great way for Jadis to kind of, a bit of redemption there. That she is acknowledging what Rick did to her, that she's willing to put that on the line. They would acknowledge, he saved me, I need to save him. I think that was beautifully done. But of course, that means that Rick isn't dead. And there has been, Angela King did talk about that there were chances for Rick to come back. I was wondering how that was going to be, because if he just let everyone across, or let the walkers across the river, and the bridge blew up, where would Rick go? Why wouldn't he just come back? In fact, Hilltop was on the other side of the river. That's what Daryl's last line is, you know, they'll go right through Hilltop. He wants to blow the bridge, you know, let the bridge collapse and let them all drown. Well, not drown, I guess, because they're already dead, but you know what I mean. So, again, if that just happened, what would happen? Even if he did just blown up and they didn't find a body, where would he go? Especially with that wound and everything to him. It's not like he would have lasted much longer. So this does leave the door open. And I think what it does perfectly is leave the door open so that when the show eventually does end, they can have the last episode, Rick returning to Alexandria, or wherever they end up being by the end of the show, and reuniting with everyone. That's going to be a way to sort of wrap up and end this show. So now Rick is away at some distance, doing something beyond his control, far enough away where he can't just come back. But it does leave that door up, I think, would be the way to end up when they do end the series, is this allows them to bring Rick back and end the show appropriately. And finally, we have our coda scene, a flash forward. We're doing another time jump, 6 years. This is, and I kind of like how they did that. They had the helicopter flying away, and then they did that pan wipe fade into the future from the same place, but obviously time has passed. Amount of time being 6 years here, where we have our newer cast of characters who will be joining our old favorites, being introduced, surrounded by walkers, and being saved by a very young and already badass Judith. Grown up, what would she be, about 10 now? I think it was like 2 years before, and they did 18 months, and now 6 years ahead, so 9-ish, 10-ish. And beautifully, obviously already a badass, shoots those walkers from some distance away, all in the head, and we get the shot of her with her own little sword, little katana right there, and of course, the picking up the hat that was her father's, and then was her brother's, and is now hers. So we have a powerful young Judith being our great transition character. And I think this was also, in a way, a smart move to make, because with the loss of Carl, we lose that important kid connection. We use a lot of the storylines that Carl was associated with going forward, the Whisperers and everything else, which is, you know, again, some of these characters that are going to be associated with. And this allows Judith to now take that role, because she would be about the age, a little bit younger than Carl, really is supposed to have been. He was 10 when everything started and only a couple years had passed. So yeah, this would kind of put her in about that same range. Young, badass child of Rick Grimes with a different vision of the future and really built and designed for living in the Walker apocalypse. So really kind of excited to see that. Just love the badassery introduction of young, well, older Judith now, but still young Judith. Taking out walkers with the hat and the sword. Just beautiful. And this is going to be where we are moving forward at this point. Alright, just a couple of small things, really kind of questions, maybe minor critiques that I have of the episode. One, Rick's horse. Did you notice that after panicking and throwing Rick off of him, the horse just went like 10 feet to the side of the road and started eating grass? Saw that really at the end of last week's episode as the camera panned up. But even now, as Rick pulled himself off of that rebar, I don't know, would that have been painful enough to knock him back out again? Just pass out from pain? I would think so. Rick, he's badass and passes out as the plot commands. But throughout this, the horse, again, that panicked at these walkers that are turning around enough to throw Rick, never seems to get that far away. Just goes a little bit, waiting as the walkers approach, doesn't run, waits till Rick gets to him, and when he gets to the house, stays in the back as the herd of walkers comes up until Rick can get back on him. I think the cabin at the camp it finally took off, because we didn't see after that, but yeah, anyway, just again, a small minor critique about this horse and its varying panic being around walkers. Oh, and look, I know that Rick was passing out, he's bleeding, he's just looking for something to kind of stem some of the blood loss that's going on. But when Rick does get to that cabin that we saw from a couple episodes ago, the old hunter, "Come at me, assholes," I guess it was painted on the door there. Really, pulling that rip of fabric up to bind up his room doesn't seem very sanitizing. Doesn't seem very safe. I mean, there was a whole bunch of walkers that were milling around inside of this cabin. It doesn't seem like, I don't know, the safest choice of a wound bandage right there. There might be a lot of walker nastiness on it. Infection is really what I'm getting at here. Very concerning. But again, bleeding to death, you got to use what's at hand. All right, well, I think that covers everything. It's the end of Rick. Bye, Rick. I'm gonna miss you. He'll be back. At least, if not, until the final episode. I'm sure at that point, like I said, he will be back. But that is it for now. Like I said, it is a 6-year time jump heading into next week's episode. We got a new group of characters we're going to be introduced to. We're going to see how everything is sort of played out with Carol and Daryl and Michonne. Everyone looking a little older, a little more intensive, a little worn, but still alive. Has it been a peaceful 6 years of small battles? Is this all just prep up for the next conflict to come? Really looking forward to it. I thought this episode was magnificently done. There wasn't any dead time. There wasn't any cheesy back, let me tell you a story about me from my youth moments. I think it was all very powerful, a great way to say goodbye to Rick, and I would like them to keep this quality going forward. One thing I am sure is that we are never going to see Morgan again on this show. Is it now 8 years ahead of Fear the Walking Dead at this point? Yeah. Anyway, but that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you so much for joining me with this review. And if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, you know where to put them. Right down in the section below. What do you guys think of this episode? What were your favorite moments? Was this an appropriate way to say goodbye to Rick? And do you think this is so we can see him and the final episode of the show? Let me know what you guys think. Throw those thoughts down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe if you're not. Quick and easy, one button pressed. You'll catch all these reviews plus the gifted we're doing, and looks like we're going to have a lot of stuff coming up this spring, so should be very exciting. And we'll just throw up A couple latest reviews right there for you to check out. So, that's it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.